Hey everybody, welcome to Critical Thinking Part 2. And in Part 1, we already talked about some of those essential intellectual standards for all human thought. We talked about clarity, accuracy, precision, relevance, depth, breadth, logic, significance, fairness, and sufficiency. But when we get down to the thinking process and reasoning through a situation, this checklist for reasoning helps you to use the elements of thought, okay? So we have to come to this place here. So all reasoning has a purpose. All reasoning is an attempt to figure something out, to settle some question, or to solve some problem. All reasoning is based on assumptions and is done from some point of view. All reasoning is based on data, information, and evidence. All reasoning is expressed through and shaped by concepts and theories. Again, kind of our meaning in the world, right? All reasoning contains inferences or interpretations by which we draw conclusions and give meaning to data. All reasoning leads somewhere and has implications and consequences. So critical thinkers use the elements of reasoning with sensitivity to our intellectual standards, right? But whenever we think for a purpose, based on assumptions leading to implications and consequences, and using concepts, ideas, theories to interpret data and experiences in order to answer those questions, solve problems, and resolve issues. So if we're holding ourselves to these elements of thought, we can kind of walk through nearly any question, decision, situation, or problem we're trying to solve and do so more thoroughly and accurately. So here's a quick checklist for evaluating your reasoning. Did you think about the purpose? Did you state the question you're trying to answer or what you're trying to solve? Did you check your assumptions? Did you gather the information you need? Did you watch your inferences? Did you clarify your concepts? Did you regard your own point of view and consider the implications? So again, just using this in the workplace can be so valuable to your employer that you thoroughly thought through a situation or a decision. So again, this is a great book to keep handy when you're doing teaming, when you're gathering in groups to try to do active problem solving or come up with solutions or brainstorm. This is a great way to do that. So this is a quick template for problem solving. You need to articulate your goals, purposes, and needs. Make sure you take problems on one by one with clarity and precision, because again, sometimes we have problems on top of problems and it gets really complicated. Determine the kind of problem you are dealing with. What will you have to do to solve it? So again, this is kind of thinking from a larger perspective, making sure that it's in your capacity to solve it. Make sure you distinguish your sense of control over the problem and concentrate on what you can solve. So again, getting back to capacity and recognizing if there are some factors out of your control and if there's anything that can be done about that. You'll need to seek the information you need for resolution, and then analyze and interpret the information you collect, drawing reasonable inferences. Now, when you use critical thinking in problem solving, you also want to kind of finish with this. Determine the options for action, both the short term and the long term. Recognize the limitations in money, time, relationships, and power. Evaluate your options, identifying the advantages and disadvantages of each. Adopt a strategy and follow through with direct action, or a carefully thought through wait and see approach for the outcome, especially if it's something that's kind of out of your control or it hasn't happened yet. You're going to have to do that latter part. And then finally, monitor the implications of your actions and be ready to revise. Now, just going through these lectures, you're going, wow, I'm like mentally exhausted. There's a lot of pieces to keep track of. I never thought so much about my thinking. That's actually called metacognition, right? Learning how we learn, thinking about how we think. But if we approached all of our decisions, problems, and issues in this manner, we would be so much more effective as people. We would get more done. We'd be more productive. But again, this is quite exhaustive. And sometimes in those moments, we don't want to put ourselves through the reasoning and the logic and the rationale behind an issue. We just want to solve it right away because we're experiencing pain or discomfort. And we just don't want to deal with it anymore. So I recognize that it's not convenient to do these critical thinking skills, but you will have opportunities in your employment to be able to flex those critical thinking muscles and show people that you can really add value to your organization by ensuring that this thought process is really, really strong. You want a thought process that is clear, accurate, precise, has depth and breadth, relevance, logic, significance, and fairness. Because you're going to get to a solution or a resolution that's a lot better than if you don't. So again, this is kind of something you have to carry with you, that you're going to come in and out of, and you'll recognize it when it's happening. You'll be like, oh, someone's asking questions about accuracy. Someone's asking questions about fairness. You'll start to see it in action, and you'll start to recognize it, and it will become easier over time. So just keep in mind, this process is highly reflective, that, we don't just come into the world with these intellectual standards. We have to develop them. We have to practice this element of reasoning process that we go through. And then again, we have to develop intellectual traits that kind of turn us into the person that we want to be, that is, a sound human being who is humble, fair-minded, has empathy and integrity. That's an employee I seek to be, and I certainly hope you do as well. So this is, again, a pathway to a much larger journey in life, and I don't want you to get overwhelmed by all this detail, but that's why you have the handy dandy miniature guide you can kind of pull out to give you some quick prompts in those moments that you need them. Okay, and there's a lot more here. This is just kind of skimming the surface, but I thought this would be useful to you in getting started. So hopefully you found this useful, and we'll see you next time.